all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to Atheist Church. Today I'm going to be talking about baptism, and a lot of Christians, I'm not going to say most, because I don't know that, but a lot of Christians just accept that baptism is a Christian thing. Well, guess what? It's not. If you look in the Bible, Jesus was baptized. And the Christians are going to say, well, yeah, but Jesus was baptized as an example to us. But then you've got the problem of John the Baptizer, who, if you read the Bible in context, you will find that basically, if you believe the shit, which I don't, but let's pretend, I think I'm going to have a t-shirt with that put on it. Let's pretend. So anyway, so let's pretend that John the Baptist was born specifically as a forerunner to Jesus, as the Bible says. Now, I'm not even sure Jesus existed, let alone John the Baptist, but that's for another day. However, John the Baptist got his name because he was baptizing people. And he was baptizing people a long time before Jesus came to him to be baptized. So, what does this tell us? This tells us that baptism was actually a Jewish thing. And it may have been used in other religions, but at least it's a Jewish thing. Probably more specifically an Essene thing to do. The Essenes were a sect of Judaism at this time, along with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And so I am going to do a whole series on baptism. So that's coming up. But we need to figure out, number one, why so many churches have so many different things about baptism. Okay. Some churches believe that it is essential to salvation, and some of them don't. Now, the Mormons believe that in order to get into the celestial kingdom, you must be baptized, but they do not believe in a hell. So it's not like God's going to send you to hell in their worldview if you don't get baptized. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah, you need to be baptized. I believe the Catholics, as hey, soldier of science, as far as I know, Nevermore, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, the Catholics think that you must be baptized to get into heaven. Otherwise, you go to purgatory, and then you have to earn your way out of purgatory. I'm not much up on Catholicism right now. And the Protestants, I'm not quite sure about the Orthodox churches. I'm inclined to say they believe with the Catholic Church that you must be baptized to get to heaven, but I cannot say that for sure. Now, the Protestant churches, Aside from the Jehovah's Witnesses, um, they mainly believe there are exceptions to this general rule. Yes, there are exceptions. But generally, most Protestants are going to say you don't need baptism for salvation. Hey, Lisa. So, now, like I said, that's a general rule, but I do know that most Pentecostal churches do say that baptism is required for salvation, so much so that they will take you into the baptismal font right after you say you got saved. So there's that. So, but aside from the Pentecostals, most Protestants are going to say, it's a choice. Baptism's a choice. It's not necessary for salvation. From what I can tell right now, and I haven't gone too much into it with my studies, but from what I can tell right now, the early Christians did believe baptism was required for salvation. Now, this is funny. I'm going to tell you a little story about Origen. Origen, the quote unquote church father. Um, he he was not Roman, but he came to Rome because he wanted to study philosophy. That's why he was in Rome in the first place. So he was studying philosophy, and he came across a Christian that told him, studying philosophy is a waste of time because I have the answer. Of course, the Christians are always going to say this. Studying is a waste of time because we've got the answers. So, anyway, getting back on topic, this man said, studying philosophy is a waste of time because I've got the answers. So Origen says, okay, so what are the answers? And this old man was telling him about the Christian way and this and that and the other. And Origen got really, really excited about it. And he also went to the Colosseum with some of his friends. And there he saw that amidst the gladiators that were fighting each other to the death, this was ancient Rome, people. They fought to the death, okay? But for intermission, between these gladiators fighting each other to the death, for intermission, they would have entertainment where they would bring out these people and they would sick the lions on them. That really happened. That's not made up. That really happened. Okay. What is made up is this happened all the time, because it did not. So, but yes, it really happened that Christians were persecuted, not 400 years straight like they want us to believe, but here and there. Okay. Um, for the most part, the Romans really didn't care. The Roman emperors, for the most part, didn't care. The Roman citizens did. Hi, Jacket. Um, But we'll get into that later when we get into, the early church and all that. We'll get into why the Roman citizens cared and the Roman emperors not so much. So Origen had gone to the Colosseum to watch the gladiators fight, and he was in this intermission where the Christians were brought out and the Romans set the lions on them. And so he was impressed because the Christians seemed very stoic about their faith. And this was what he was, you know, he was like, this is what I want. I want to be stoic about death. This is why I'm studying philosophy. So he he asked his buddies, "Hey, who are these people?" And his buddy said, "These are the Christians, and they're really messing up our city, and our empire, and so we feed them to the lions." And so Origen got really, really interested. And so one day he's out walking about and he comes along a Christian man. And that's where this Christian man says, "Hey, I've got all the answers." Yes, that is very hubristic. Hey, Marianne Lockwood. So anyway, um, so Origen ends up dropping out of philosophy school and moving in with a patron, which would be a really rich person who was a Christian who took him under her wing. Yes, it was a her. Okay. So Origen decides that he wants to get baptized. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Origen decides he wants to get baptized. This is what Christians don't realize about their own faith, okay? Because this was really, if it happened today, it would be disturbing to Christians, okay? So, what the Christians did was they would go down into a cave, which I understand a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, Christianity would be illegal in the Roman Empire. Like I said, some emperors cared, some emperors didn't care. Sometimes they were under um, persecution, sometimes they weren't. But whether they were under persecution or not, they would always go to a cave where the baptisms would take place. And the person being baptized would basically take off all of his clothes, okay? So he's butt naked. And he goes into this pool that's in this cave, which has to be like really, really cold because caves never get any sunlight. So, yeah, Nevermore, tell me about it. So, anyway, so Origen takes off all of his clothes. He's butt naked. He goes down into this pool, which has to be very cold because it never gets sunlight because it's in a cave. And so then he gets baptized. Okay. I don't know whether at this time it was in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Probably not, because that came after Constantine. But that's just a guess. Um, and he comes out of the water. Somebody baptizes him, and then he comes out of the water, and somebody's holding a new robe for him. And he puts on this new robe, and after that he kneels down before someone. Okay, he is committing idolatry by kneeling down before someone. And this person who he's kneeling down before then gives him some honeycomb and some milk. I kid you not. This comes from his own testimony. So I have no choice but to believe it because he testifies himself. This is what his baptism was. Okay. So somebody else is feeding him honeycomb and milk. And this honeycomb and milk is supposed to symbolize, hey, you're a baby. You can't have meat yet. Therefore, we have to feed you honeycomb and milk. What the fuck are these people doing? And it sounds crazy, right? But this is how baptism was in the early church. You get butt naked, you get dunked, and then somebody else, not you, somebody else dresses you. Okay, we're talking about, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? This is the way it was in early Christianity. Somebody else dresses you after you come out of the cave water butt naked. Somebody else dresses you. Somebody else feeds you. Oh my goddamn fuck. You are like a little baby. They treat you like you are a little baby. I know, right, Lisa? So if Christians knew this was where baptism came, this is how the early baptism of their faith started, somehow I don't think they would be practicing baptism today. Also, I don't think they would be practicing baptism if they knew that the Jews practiced baptism, because the Christians really don't like the Jews. I mean, they really don't, because they think they killed the Savior. And that's a whole nother story. By the way, how can you kill someone who's going to rise from the dead in less than 3 days anyway? It was more like, I don't know, a day and a half. It wasn't 3 whole days. It was more like a day and a half. So it wasn't like he really died. It was more like he went to sleep. But that's another story altogether anyway. And so, I mean, you've got, I kid you not, I have Origen's baptism story that he gives himself because remember, he was a student of philosophy, so he obviously knew how to read and write. He told it himself, he wrote it down himself. This is Origen himself saying, this is how I got baptized. Okay? So, I mean, this was fucking nuts, right? And it's just like, wow, wow. You're like, wow, I did not know this. And then you're like, how do people today, how do Christians today not know this? I'll tell you why they don't know this. They don't know their own fucking history, because if they did know their own fucking history, they probably wouldn't be Christian. I guess so, Rick B. I don't know. Um, I have I think it's still on my channel, Zombie Apocalypse in Jerusalem. Um, and I point out in the zombie apocalypse of Jerusalem, um, that one of the gospels, maybe more than one, it says, hey, there were people popping up out of the graves all over the place in Jerusalem. Now you would think if that actually happened, somebody living in Jerusalem in that time would have written about it. But they didn't. Thank you, Marianne. I mean, seriously. It's like, the more you learn about it, the more you really understand how crazy this religion is. Oh yeah, Rick B. Yeah. Not to mention the fact that all of the Jews would have had to go and get purified at the temple, so there would have been like a line 500 miles long out of the temple to get purified because they can't touch dead things. Oh, by the way, how would that have worked since, well, the temple would have been there. Yeah, I mean, the temple would have been there when the zombie apocalypse would have happened. So, yeah, I mean, they would have had a line 500 miles long, you know? Otherwise, they couldn't eat anything because they were ritually unclean. So, how does that work? Ugh. You don't think of these things until you get out of you know, the out of the indoctrination, out of the brainwashing, you know. Tell me about it, Rick. Tell me about it. So, anyway, you've got all of this, you know, stuff. And if you have if you have a if your brain is not turned off, I'm not going to say if you have a thinking brain, because plenty of Christians have thinking brains, okay? But if you have a brain that is not turned off by indoctrination, you're going to be thinking, this is fucking insane that that these people at the very start of Christianity were getting butt naked to get baptized. And then somebody else dresses them like they're some kind of a little baby, which is absolutely correct. It's some kind of a kink. And then somebody else is feeding them honey and milk. What the fuck kind of cult is this? So, yeah, um, baptism isn't Christian. It started way before Christianity, people. You know, if you don't believe me, look it up. It's out there on the internet. I'm not going to hold your hand. You know, I don't expect you to take my word for it. You know, if you really want to know, it's out there. Just go looking for it, okay? Because I promise you, if I found it, anybody can find it. Cool, Nevermore. So, at any rate, um, I think that's all my raving like a lunatic right now because, I know, right, Lisa? Right? I mean, it's one thing if they have to be, like, if they've got multiple sclerosis or something like that. And, you know, it's it's different if something like that's happening, but, I mean, feeding a grown-ass adult male perfectly capable of feeding himself. And we're not talking about sexual kinks here. I don't care if you have a sexual kink about feeding people, okay? This isn't a sexual kink. This is a baptism kink, you know? I mean, come on. So this is just like, and the more you dig into this, the more you dig into this, the crazier and the more ridiculous it seems. And the more ridiculous you're like, hell, I've got to distance myself from this shit. Because this is batshit crazy. So yeah, seriously. Um Now I have an ebook that has the origin story in it. Not origin, 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 Origen, one of the church quote unquote fathers. Um, but I'm pretty sure you can find it for free on the internet somewhere. Um, but I, you know, because I promise you, if somebody were to say to someone, in order to be a Christian, you have to be baptized. And oh, by the way, you have to take all your clothes off and get butt naked to be baptized. They're going to say, if they've got a brain cell, they're going to say, no, thank you. I am not going to get naked in front of a bunch of people I don't even know. No, thank you. Anyway, Um, yeah, but it is insane. It is insane. The kinds of stuff that you learn once you get out of it, you know? Once you learn the true history, not the watered down history that Christians want you to believe. Not that, oh, we were persecuted for 400 years straight, because they were not. Okay? Some emperors didn't give a shit about Christians, whereas some emperors did. Okay? At any rate, it's a bunch of propaganda, and don't fall for it. So, anyway, I cannot believe I ranted on that long about baptism. Wow. Um, Anyway, um, if you are not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. I would really enjoy it if you would subscribe to my channel. All social media links are in the description. You can see that banner for channel members. Right now, Lisa is my only channel member. You get your name on that little scrolly thing rolling across the screen if you become a channel member. You also get exclusives. And yeah, I will catch you guys later. See you guys later. Bye.